as well as meeting the manager. In terms of meeting the gaffer, when as soon as it happened, he was really positive with me, and that took a massive weight on my shoulders in terms of those worries. Like, does he know me? What's he gonna be like with me?
Yeah.
As soon as I said I got the news, and then 20 minutes later, I'm still emotional and stuff. And he walks in the room, and he's just like, I heard the news, just reassuring me don't worry, we're gonna wait for you. You'll be fine. I'll be ready when you come back. Just take your time. Just get over this. So that was massive for me. Then when we came back, it was just surreal. I've never. Through my Liverpool career, there's times where you realise how big the club is, and that was one that sort of just set in stone. This club is unbelievable. Just as soon as we landed, it was wow, just hundreds of thousands of people. We was all just fatigued and not slept and nothing, but it was just running off adrenaline, just off the energy of the supporters. As soon as we got on the tour bus and going around the city, it was just scenes I've never seen or I'll remember for the rest of my life.
Welcome to Views from Inside, the football podcast that aims to inspire our next generation by listening to the advice and real life experiences by professionals that we have on this show. My name's Leon Semper, aka Semps, and I'm your host today. And I'm honored to be joined by someone who's a full England international. And he's also just managed to win the Premier League title. Also, UEFA Super Cup and FIFA Club World Cup winner, as well as having that small Champions League medal around his neck at home. I'm joined and honored to have in the studio today Liverpool defender Joe Gomez. How you doing, Joe?
I'm good, man. Good, Leon. Nice pleasure to be here.
Brilliant, man. As I said, thank you very much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. I've mentioned all of those accolades and didn't even include the fact that you won the 2014 European Championship, I believe, at under 17 level with England. Now, you've done all of that. I believe you played every minute of every match, was in the team of the tournament as well, and you're only 23 years old. So, boy, you've done quite a lot, haven't you?
Yeah, no, thank you. It was a nice introduction, man.
Nah, man,
Yeah, no, I think it's a bit surreal because at times I feel like I've had a whole career in a short spell, like you say, but at the same time I know I have such a long time to go. Probably partially because of the hiccups I've had and periods where I feel like I could have played loads more games.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm grateful to still be young and still learning and have the chance to hopefully achieve some more.
Brilliant. Well, it's interesting you say that about the fact that you could have played a lot more games, because one thing I was going to ask you is that I'm sure when you was growing up wanting to become a professional footballer, you dreamed of playing in and winning the Premier League, which you've now achieved. But I'm guessing the journey that is taken from A to B has not been smooth, has not been easy.
Not at all. Not at all. It probably started when I was real young, from the get-go. My journey at Charlton was far from smooth. Later on, when we got to under 18 and so on, I did have a good period where I got a chance to play up and I didn't really have any injuries, and then got a chance to get into the first team. But from the early ages, when I was 9, 10, I was said I wasn't really at the level yet. I had to go away and come back, and that was probably my first insight into this football thing. It's not going to be easy, and I'm going to have rejection, and that was tough to take at that age, at such a young age. I'm not used to getting rejected, but from there, it probably was a blessing in disguise. And like you say, it's not been straightforward at all.
Brilliant. Well, we're going to sort of come back to that, because that's the information that I want to get out of you, just for you to
Yeah.
give us the experiences that you've been through, because I think
Mm.
it's the reason why I like having these type of conversations is because in life, whether it's football or myself or anybody watching this, when we're trying to go
Yeah.
for our goals and our dreams, it's never straightforward. It's never easy. And it's important that we all have to recognize that there's going to be ups and downs, that we sort of just need to keep going. So as I said, thank you very much for being on here. And I'm sure that by the stories that you tell today, that, many people can be inspired and keep going to achieve their goals. So thank you very much.
No, thank
If
you.
you are new to the channel, people, please hit that subscribe button. Um, and if you're listening on the audio, whether it be Spotify, SoundCloud, or Apple Podcasts, please also share about with your people, and any young aspiring footballers, share this with them as well. So if we was to go back to the beginning, Joe, I believe that
Yeah.
you was born in Catford, South London. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's
Um,
fine.
and what was your family life like when you was growing up? Do you have other siblings? Are you the oldest? How did it work?
Yeah, pretty big family. So it was me, and then I've got four other siblings.
Okay.
Two older sisters, a younger brother and sister were twins. So like I was like sort of the middle child. Like they were the two older and sort of together, and then my young brother and sister are twins. So I was sort of like in that catch 22.
Okay.
But it was nice. It was just nice having a big household, a lot of family, and just people to be around.
So how did you get into football?
Um, so I was like 4 or 5 years old, and one of my mates from school called Anthony was going to Pitt's Power League,
Okay.
like on a Saturday. Just his mum was taking him on a Saturday session, and we were just friends. And his mum was like, "Oh, do you want me to join him today?" So I went along, just enjoyed it. I think that was my first time properly in an organised setting.
Okay.
And then, yeah, from there, my dad took interest and was like, "Oh yeah," like start taking me in, and he eventually started coaching there. Had a little team, just based there. So that was like my first team, called Marvel's Lane.
Okay.
And yeah, just took it from there really. So it was, yeah, just one Saturday, just got taken along and just enjoyed it, just loved it straight away.
Brilliant. And did you play for your school football team and stuff like that?
Yeah, so then from there, I just sort of progressed like Marvel's Lane, and then got picked up by like 10 and B, who were like more of an established sort of setup, like based around like futsal and Brazilian sort of style of play. So we
Okay.
played with a lot of like those sand balls, the ones that don't bounce and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then from there, like played for my district, played for Lewisham, and then that's when sort of got the interest from Charlton a
All
little
right.
bit. So then I went in. I think I was about 9, 10 at the time, for like a 6-week trial. So I did the whole period, and that's what I was saying. Like that's when I sort of had my first like
Yeah.
rejection.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I just got told like at a point in time, obviously I was still real young and not developed, and I was definitely gangly and just not really in sync,
Yeah, yeah.
with my body, which happens to everyone. Like everyone gets to that point and comes out of it at different stages, but I just wasn't ready. So yeah, just done the 6 weeks and then just got told, nah, just come back in a little while. So at that point, I was like, nah, I'm never going back to Charlton. They're rejecting me. I don't want to play there anymore. Da, 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 da. So I went back to 10 and B, and then went back like a few months later. Yeah, and then I got in. But I think at that point for me, it was more so, I think they just saw my attitude more than, and desire to learn more than my ability, because
Yeah.
I was far from, even when I did sign me, I don't feel like I was at the level required. I
Okay.
think I was a good, like I probably had signs of being a good player, but I definitely wasn't. I don't think, like just technically in drills and stuff, I just didn't feel like I was at the same level as other guys.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it was probably justified. Well, obviously, yeah, the coaches, they knew best, but yeah, so I was lucky, I think, in a way to get him when I did, because then I was fortunate to have that development in an academy from like 10, 11 going through.
So how did you sort of deal with that and come back? Because obviously rejection is a big thing that affects a lot of people. So you got that at a young age. Maybe
Yeah.
that was helped you because it was so young and it wasn't later on. But What did you do mentally to sort of say, you know what, I'm gonna come back?
I'd be lying if I said, at 10 I was like, nah, I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna do this again. Like, I just remember being in tears in my mum's car in the car park at Sparrows Lane, and then I think me being emotional and sad, my mum seeing me like that, she went home to my dad and was like, nah, we're not taking him back there, even if they call him back. Just being protective. But obviously, as a 10-year-old, the next day you forget about it, you move on.
Yeah, of course.
So I just went back to playing football, and then when the time came around again, I think I was just, maybe those initial nerves and like the same players, like having known them previously. I just got over that hurdle. But I don't think at that phase I was so young. I don't think I was at the point where I was able to really like sit down and evaluate, oh, you got rejected, you just need to try hard. I think it was just like, I enjoyed playing football. They took me back and I just embraced each session as it was. And just
makes
happened.
sense. How did you sort of deal with the transition from playing with, was it called 10B, to then playing with Charlton Academy? Because I'm guessing the standard is quite different. How was that adjustment?
Yeah, it was, that was a big one. I think it was just a lot more regimented, and 10B in a way was just like that place that I went and had fun. Whereas at Charlton, I think when I first got into the academy, it was daunting. It was like more so the scale of things, and like, this is a proper academy, and Charlton Academy has always been good, and obviously the club's had some tough times in recent years, but just being in that setting was like this is a different league. So as I say, technically it was difficult at first, but you have to start somewhere, and I just grasped just trying to work on the technical aspects, and at that age they just gave us like, not like homework, but it was time to like take it upon ourselves to be at home and juggle the ball, play against the wall, and just work on those things.
Okay. And your time at Charlton, I think you said earlier that wasn't smooth itself. What happened from when you started, say, 10 to when you signed your professional contract there? What sort of issues did you have?
I think so there was like the main figure for me at Charlton was a coach called Steve Avery, and he was sort of like head of academy from going up to under 18s. So like I started playing up quite early, and I was always up for the challenge, but did struggle physically at times. I think obviously it's a weird age when you're like a young teenager and playing against some players in the youth team are like developed like grown men.
Yeah.
So I think for my parents that was a worry just in terms of my confidence, but then I definitely hit a point whereby in technical terms, like my heading was, for a centre back, which I wanted to be, I was like way off it. Like I just couldn't attack the ball. Timing was off. So Paul Hart, who was the coach at the time, was like, probably the best thing that he done for me was just like, you're not playing up until you can head the ball. If you can't head it, then you can't play for our youth team.
Wow.
So like, obviously I'm eager to want to play. Like, I've got a little taste of it, and I want to play up. It's just, it's the challenge that I want. But yeah, I had to just sort of suck it up and just practice and try and learn to time it better, and just keep my eyes on the ball. But he was definitely helped me like learn that blend between like youth team football and then like what the first team environment's like.
Yeah.
And it definitely helped me, because then once I went into the first team setup at like 17, I was aware that there's pressure, and it's not a joke. Like, it's not a game anymore, and we're playing for our points and the supporters and the club.
Was that easy to sort of make a jump from youth to that level?
It was definitely daunting, because like Charlton was all I knew, and I'd seen the team in the Prem, and it is a big club. Like in recent years, like I've said, it's been unfortunate they've just got relegated and stuff, but the scale of things, I knew it was a big opportunity, and in a way I was fortunate that then my transition was sort of at fullback. And Chris Solly at the time sort of struggled with his knee a little bit. So it was sort of like we took it a game at a time in a way. Or like I might play, just simply because of his knee.
Injury,
So
okay.
yeah, so it gave me an opportunity to play at right back and not be under the strain of Saturday, Tuesday, and also being at fullback sort of helped my transition. But still, I struggled. Like I didn't struggle, but it was just like, wow, this is different. Like
Yeah, of course.
there were definitely times that stood out to me, like, wow, this is going to be a different challenge. Like I can't physically just try and bully or like try and impose myself. Like guys are stronger than me, quicker than me, more intelligent, and yeah, it was just the Championship's a tough league, big time.
So, as you've said, it's not easy, and there's many people from academies that don't make it professional. What do you think has stood out with yourself that allowed you to then sign that contract with Charlton?
I think it's a number of factors. I think just trying to embrace the challenge, and I think the main thing that in football, the fundamental attribute is just mentality. I feel as though obviously talent can take you a long way, but sometimes it's just having a desire to learn and just being hungry to keep learning and progressing. I think for me, I was definitely just eager to learn, and I'd like to think I just didn't really get ahead of myself in terms of feeling as though once I made my debut, I'm in now. I'm a pro. Or once I signed the first pro, I wasn't like, yeah, I'm a pro. Like I just didn't feel that way, and I felt like there's so much more for me to learn and to be established. I've got a long way to go. So I think it's just constantly like, just never dwelling on what you've achieved or the last game you played, just constantly like striving and wanting to keep learning, because all it takes is in football you constantly get humbled by a game or performance that just says like, listen, you might have had 5 good games, but sometimes all people remember was the last. So
Of course, yeah. So you've done your time at Charlton, and then the big club comes for you. Did you know that Liverpool were looking at you? Did you know they were looking at you for some time? How did that come about?
So like, I think the season before, like when I was sort of playing up in the youth team and stuff, there was like a bit of interest and stuff from a couple of clubs, but my dad and my agent, who I'm still with now, was sort of like protective and shielding me from having much knowledge about anything that was going on, which I'm thankful for sure, because it's just easy to get caught up and think, just let your mind stray and feel like, yeah, I want to go, or I want this opportunity.
Yeah.
And at the time, like sometimes the bigger teams in the Category 1 clubs can make offers that in the short term are appealing and feel as though, yeah, like my family can go and we can all, like, it just seems appealing for a family to just take their child, and then in a way it's pressure on you at a young age to feel like, yeah, I've moved all my family and now we're all like living together in this house supplied by the club, and
you got to perform.
My parents, yeah, at a young age, you're not even ready, you're not even developed yet, but you've got pressure indirectly without even being ready for it. So it's more credit to my dad and my agent for just shielding me from that. So then the season when I started playing in the first team, they sort of had me a bit more involved, and towards the end of the season, we sat down with Liverpool, and I met Brendan Rodgers at the time, and it just felt like as soon as I met him, that's where I wanted to go. And I always had a liking for Liverpool, and the club's massive, and it just has a nice feel to it at the time. So yeah, and at that point, I was at an age where I was 17 going on 18 in the summer. I could move up by myself and just really focus, and I was turning into an adult. So it was good timing for me at that point to feel like I was ready, and I'd felt like I'd played the first team games I needed to play. But I was still wary that I'm probably going to then go out on loan.
Okay.
That was the discussion that we had, and at the time I spoke to Brendan, and it was something I completely expected to do, because but at the same time I knew I have this platform to then return to Liverpool and maybe get an opportunity again further down the line. But at the time I'd only played, I think, 24, 25 champ games, so it was like I probably do need to continue to develop and learn. So yeah, I just went and signed that summer. So yeah, it was definitely the perfect fit for me and what I was expecting, and we took it from there in pre-season, really.
And when you arrived at Liverpool, what was your first sort of impression of the club? And again, we're talking about you've consistently just kept progressing up and up and up.
Yeah.
So what was the noticeable change and difference between the Liverpool standard and the Charlton standard?
Just the scale again, like just tenfold. You just feel it, like the club, and like for me there was just a lot going on because I'd always just known South East London, my mum and dad's house. So as well as going to a new club, it's just a new experience living by yourself. And
True.
my missus was still going to uni, like she's just starting uni, so it was like I was by myself for the majority of the time. She could come up when she could, but that experience, as well as like then going to Melbourne and I'm seeing like Colo Torre, Martin Skirtle, like defenders and just players, Phil Coutinho and so on, that are like, I'm starstruck, like realistically. Like I'm in training, I'm like, just like, wow, like I'm playing with these guys, we're doing keep ball together and stuff. It's like wow, but at the same time, it was just like, just enjoying myself, just embrace the challenge. And the club's so good at welcoming you, and it is like a family that, although it was daunting, but once I had that first day out of the way, like those initial nerves, it was just like, yeah, I'm part of the team now.
So is that actually what happens then when a new player does join? Generally, the players do welcome that player in and make them feel at home and try and ease their transition into the first
Oh
team.
yeah, 100%, 100%, and especially when it is a player at the age that I was when I joined. Often, like other players when they're older, probably have had some experience or have relationships with people in the team. But for me, coming from a league below, at the same time, and no one really knew who I was.
Yeah.
No, I probably wasn't known by anyone in the team. So it was just like the fact that they reached out to me, and people like Hendo and Millie and so on, who were experienced people in the team at the time. Obviously, Millie just joined as well, but still had that experience and was, like I say, had the relationships with people already. He was just like naturally just joined the team. But yeah, just reaching out to me, like the big things, they wouldn't have realised how big they were for me. Like just saying, just checking up on me, just asking how are you, like how you finding it, where you living, you up by yourself, just the little things just help me just feel settled. And then once you go away in pre-season, it's like you're together in the canteen all the day, or like dinner all the time. You just that breaks the ice a little bit as well.
Did you ever find it difficult living away from Southeast London and living up there by yourself at that age?
Yeah, for sure. For the first few months, it was like, that initial like honeymoon period. I've got my own space. Like I can play TV as loud as I want. I can just walk around. Like I can do what I want. But then I think the hardest thing for me was like, you train and then you've just got, our training schedule is different now, but when we was on the Brendan, it was like train at 11, or you train for like an hour and 20, hour and a half, and then you're back home by 2, and then you've got the whole day. And I wasn't used to, I was used to calling my boys like and saying, what you guys doing, what should we do? They'll just come and chill. So it just felt the times just flew, but where I was there, it was just like staring at the walls at times. And then by the time I moved, I had the first few months, and then I got injured quite soon. So then that was like took it to another level of just feeling, not knowing what to do with myself and just being left alone, just with my thoughts and just, that's when the next phase of things started, really.
So that injury happened after Klopp came in. Am I right?
Yeah, but literally the same week.
So
Yeah,
new manager comes in. I've
yeah,
spoken to a few footballers who have said, that being under one manager and then the new manager comes in and then you sort of fall out of favor and then it
yeah.
doesn't quite work out. So how was you then feeling then getting such a serious injury as well?
It just felt like, why now? Like, not even being able to have a session to
Yeah.
like have that
Show what you
initial,
can do and stuff.
yeah, just like just so he's familiar a little bit with you,
Yeah.
or just understands like just who you are, your face, or what position you. Just like, I'm still at a point where I feel like I'm 18, like it doesn't even know me.
Yeah.
Like like you say, it can be a proper like change of direction when a new manager comes in, and you might have a completely different thought, or you might have a judgment of you before he's even got there, just having seen you. So I just remember we was away with England 21s at the time, and then it just got announced that he was the new manager. Obviously, we was all buzzing like, wow, like, Then we played the game. I got injured. I thought, like, when I got injured, I didn't think.
It was
I knew it was
serious.
bad, but I didn't think it was going to be what it was.
Yeah.
So then, when the day I actually went back to Melbourne and got the scan, went into the doctor's office, I got the results, and literally within like 15 minutes, he walked in the building and came in the room. So it was like that was my first initial like introduction with him, and yeah, it was the worst timing possible, but it was part of the journey, really.
So how did you deal with it, man? Because that's what I want to know. Because
Yeah,
injuries, especially mentally, can mess you up.
big
Um,
time.
how
Yeah,
did you deal with that? Because you're still young as well. We're not
yeah,
talking about an established player who has
yeah.
been through many years. New managers come in, you're young, you've got injured. So, yeah, how did you deal with that?
It was just so many new experiences at once. I think so. Like for one, at Charlton, I've never really been out for more than like I had one serious like ankle injury, which was like 5 weeks, but then that was never an operation or anything like that. I never knew what an ACL really was. I never knew like the extent. Everything I was getting told was like, "What's this?" or "How long?" Like just it was just new challenges and new like information constantly.
Yeah,
And then on top of that, like I was away from home. I didn't have like anyone to really go home and speak to about it. And then I was going into this surgery that I just didn't know. All I could do was just like YouTube and try and figure out like the people bounce back from this. Like, am I going to be as quick as I was? Am I going to be able to like turn it? Like, what does this mean? So then, as well as meeting the manager, in terms of meeting the gaffer when as soon as it happened, he was really positive with me, and that took a massive weight on my shoulders in terms of those worries. Like, does he know me? What's he going to be like with me?
yeah, yeah.
As soon as like I said I got the news, and then like 20 minutes later, like, I'm still like emotional and stuff. And he walks in
Yeah.
the room and he's just like, I heard the news, just reassuring me like, don't worry, we're gonna wait for you. You'll be fine. I'll be ready when you come back. Just take your time.
It's
Just get
brilliant.
over this. So that was massive for me. It was huge. Like just mentally, it just felt like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's that side of things, and I just got to focus on getting better. And then, yeah, then it was down to London for surgery, and it was like I never knew what I was in for in the slightest. I was blessed in a way that not blessed. Like it was unfortunate. Like Danny Ings at the time,
Okay.
he done his ACL like 2 days after me. So we went down together, and we was getting the surgery on the same day, like back to back.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, like my body, I felt like I was 18, but you're not. I still didn't feel like I was a man yet, and
Yeah.
I found that out like the next few months. Like after I got the surgery, it's like you just waste away. Like within a few days, like for one, I never experienced pain like it.
Yeah.
It was something I wasn't ready or didn't expect, and then just being in the hospital bed, you just waste away, and then it's like you're starting from scratch. So yeah, it was a tough time. It was probably the toughest moment, that period in my career, but it definitely shaped me. And I learned so much about myself in that period.
Wicked, man. So, you go through your rehab and then you make your
Yeah.
debut. You come on and make your debut. How did that feel?
Yeah, just playing again, like just because there was times in my injury where I felt like, am I gonna make it back? Because you go through things with your knee and then you come back and you're not ready and you're not running right.
Yeah.
Like imbalances, like I said, I don't think I was really ready, like physically, to deal with such stress. And then, so like I had an Achilles injury that was like, I didn't feel like, my knee was cool, but I just couldn't get over it, the Achilles injury, and I just felt like, am I gonna be able to play again?
So when
Because
did
I
the
can't.
Achilles happen? Sorry.
So like 6 months down the line through my ACL, I was ready to go back on the grass.
Oh, wow.
So I went back on the grass, first session, just jogging, and I was like, what's this pain?
Ah,
Like, what's this pain? Like, my knee felt alright. I felt
yeah,
weird, obviously, but
yeah.
I was just, I can't run properly. And then
Jeez.
that's what I did another 6 months of just like calf raises and just,
Yeah.
it was a tendinopathy whereby like there's no quick fix. It's like you just got to strengthen your calves, and
Yeah,
that's,
I done my Achilles couple of years ago.
oh wow, a rupture.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh
full tear. So
yeah,
I know what you're going through, or what you
it's a
went through, I should say.
it's a constant pain. Like
It's
walking,
still now. It's still now.
yeah,
And
like you
this is a
wake up in the
couple.
morning and it's
Yeah,
stiff, and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, you don't think these things are gonna happen, and then you don't realize like, how much you need every component in your body. So yeah, that just added another 6 months. That was the hard period, because then Danny, like Ingsy, was back in training and flying, and then I'm just like,
You're
I'm just
back there.
watching. So yeah, like, yeah. Once I got back, it was just like more so relief. Like, at least I made it back onto the pitch. Like, at least I'm back
Mm.
fit. And then it was just like a period whereby like the gaffer was just, he knew what I was ready for before I was. He knew that first 6 months I wasn't going to be myself. Um, so yeah, I had that period where like I was still like, coordination was off again. Just the little components of awareness and so on that didn't come back for a while. But he was patient with me, and then so I came back like towards the winter, and then that rest of the season I was just getting on the bench and coming on a couple of times, but I wasn't really involved. And then so I had to see it as a fresh beginning. Like
Yeah.
that off season, I had a decision whether to go to the European Championships with the 21s, or like just focus on coming back for the start of pre-season, because it was sort of like it overlapped
Okay.
quite a bit. So that was a big step for me in terms of, obviously I got injured with England, and I got in the 21s quite early, but at this point I had the year out, and it was like my age group. It was my last chance to go to the Euros, and then yeah, that was a tough decision, because in my mind I knew like your club's the foundation really. If you're not performing at your club,
Yeah, yeah, of course.
you're not going to get the opportunity at international level. So yeah, if I'd went to the Euros, I'd have missed like, I think it was 3-4 weeks of pre-season.
Yeah.
And for me, having had like such a bitty season, like last 2 seasons really, it was like, I need to be back for the start of pre-season. Like, I need to be under the gaffer's nose. I need to be fit. I need to be ready. And yeah, it was a big decision, but the England 21s manager at the time, AD Buford, was so good with me. And yeah, I got the chance that pre-season, and then sort of that's when I started first getting around in the team.
You know what? A round of applause for that, because that couldn't have been easy. And I guess many people would go and play for England in that position. So for you to think about your primary objective, which is playing for your club, I think is really good. And these decisions that you're making at such a young age, I'm not surprised to see where you are now. So you know,
Thank you.
don't take those sort of decisions lightly, like what you've done there. I think that's really
Yeah.
brilliant.
No, it was definitely. I didn't at the time. Because I didn't want to have the perception, or people have the perception that I don't care about playing for my country. Or
Yeah,
at the end of the day, I had to call up the manager, the AD, and say like, AD. But I didn't. It wasn't a thing where I shied away and said to the club, "Oh, can you give an excuse or can you give some reason or whatever, or say I'm injured?" Or I had to just call AD myself and be honest and explain it. And I think that's what helps him give me his blessing and just say, yeah, you know what, you got to come back, and that you're at a different stage in your career to some of the other lads whereby you've had this setback, and the most important thing is getting right. So yeah, it's thanks to him really as well.
brilliant, man. Transparency is always the best way. Honesty is the best
Definitely,
policy in these type of situations all the time, man. Um,
definitely.
so you've had, as we spoke in the beginning, man, there's been some ups and downs, even with your Liverpool career,
Yeah,
injuries at
yeah,
Liverpool. You missed the 2018 Champions League final, and you was injured at the time. Is that correct?
yeah.
And again, what's going through your mind at that point? Because not many people get to two Champions League finals, you
Yeah,
know.
exactly. Like, like you say, in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, this is it. Like, I might not get another chance to be involved just in the team. As a player, I think it's just wanting fulfillment, and that's what I've realized having the injuries that I've had. Like, that's the thing that eats you up inside most. Is just wanting to feel like that feeling when you come in the dressing room after 90 minutes and feel like, yeah, win, lose, draw. Like sometimes, obviously, when you lose, you're not satisfied, but we've put in a shift, and like football's a constant cycle whereby it's just game, 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 and it's like if you're not doing that cycle and going through it, you just feel like I'm not doing what I'm meant to be.
Mm.
So the hardest bit was like having a sustained period where I'm not involved and watching the team, and then to see the team get to a pinnacle, like to the Champions League final, which may never happen again, and feel like I haven't really participated in the campaign. I don't feel involved, but
Yeah,
on the flip side, like I want us to succeed. I want us to win. But then I'm thinking if we do, I'm not going to feel like a part of it. But yeah, it was another tough, like a mental battle, but one that I had to get reassurance from like Kira and my boys, and they just let me know like, listen, like you've played your bit, you was involved, but just don't even stress about that. Like, we just got to enjoy the game, and it was unfortunate what happened, but it was obviously very fortunate, like you say, to get another go for them.
another
Yeah,
chance. You mentioned your boys there, and that's something that has come up in conversations that I've had as well, is that having good people around you is so important.
yeah.
How much importance do you put on that for young footballers coming through?
Oh, massively, like massively. I think just your day-to-day decision making and just having that support system. Like for me, I'm thankful, like massively, just to have such a strong like network of just friends and family around me. Like my boys have been like my friends from school, the
Yeah,
same ones that have always from Forest Hill just always supported me and been there and just been that escape for me, and just like I went up to Liverpool, and at the time I didn't really have that around me, but always felt like I could reach out to them.
yeah,
Obviously since then now I've got a family and so on, but having that stability from them was massive, and just them being the type that was so supportive, and 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 I was able to, like, often just after games they were just the ones that times you don't know if you played well or played badly, just let you know and just be real with you and say, yeah, you could have done this better, you could have done that better. And then yeah, aside from that, obviously my missus is key and a focal point, and I'm grateful to have had that stability from when before I joined Liverpool, and that obviously played a massive part as well. But it's so important, and something that I definitely don't feel like I've been able to sustain or get through some of the things I went through without them.
wicked. So, fast forward another year, you're in another Champions League final. And it's a totally new experience for you, I'm guessing, because you're not injured anymore.
Yeah.
How are you preparing for the run up to the Champions League final? What sort of emotions are going through your mind at that point as well?
I was definitely just nervous. Just it was all a blur in a way because I think the rest of the lads, like, although I'd seen it, I was on the outskirts, and I think they'd had the experience at the end of the day, and they was in a different position to me because they know what it felt like to play and be involved in the lead up. So it's just when the season ends, it's like the Prem's done, and it's like, wow, like in 3 weeks' time, the whole city knows that this is the biggest game of the year for us. It's like for those next 3 weeks, it's like everything's just Champions League, Champions League. Like the focus is just everywhere you go around the city, all the conversation is just around the Champions League. And for a club like with such a rich history, it still is of such importance. And it's for any club, it's a massive game. So just that nerves and anxiety just to be in the game. And I wasn't even starting, and I was aware, like you're aware what the team's going to be, sort of thing in the lead up, but just still so nervous and just anxious to see what it's going to be like.
So you've won the Champions League now. How does it feel? Did you ever dream when you was growing up? Actually, is that something that you think about, or is that too far? Because probably Premiership is more closer to what you're thinking of, I'm guessing.
Yeah, way too far, way too far. Like, for me, like a Prem debut was like playing in the Prem. That's a dream. But like watching Champions League on a Tuesday night, Wednesday night, I was like, that's what Thierry Henry and like it was.
Yeah.
That wasn't even in my,
Yeah.
it wasn't even my peripheral. Like I didn't see that. So yeah, it's definitely a massive experience that I was faithful to be a part of. But yeah, then when we came back, it was just surreal. Like I've never. That's a like through my Liverpool career. Like there's times where you realise how big the club is, and that was one that sort of just set in stone. Like this club is unbelievable. Just as soon as we landed, it was like wow, like just hundreds of thousands of people. Like we was all just fatigued and not slept and nothing, but it was just running off adrenaline, just off the energy of the supporters. And as soon as we got on the tour bus and going around the city, it was just like just scenes I've never seen or I'll remember for the rest of my life.
Wicked, man. So that's I think that's a takeaway as well, people, is sometimes we dream too small. You know, you
100%.
you never know what's available for
Yeah.
you, and you've gone on to play and win the Champions League. It wasn't even in his periphery, so that's amazing. Well done to you, Joe, on that one. So the
And
Go on.
for me, like it's like sometimes you don't even realise the scale of things like when you're in it, but a lot of football is luck and being fortunate at the right time to be in the right, like you say, like managers can come in and so on. And for me, I'm definitely grateful to have been a part of this team and this club. But like you say, it's just once you're in the moment, it's just attack it and just feel as though like you belong. Because if you feel like this is better than me or this is bigger than me, like some occasions can just swallow you up. And yeah, it's definitely a learning experience, but I definitely think it's a fine line of just being grateful for the opportunity and being there, but at the same time, just got to attack it and embrace it.
Wicked, man. So we've all gone through a bit of a turmoil time at the moment with COVID and everything.
Yeah.
For you in particular, being a professional footballer, playing for Liverpool, being so close to winning the Premier League, then league gets shut down. How did you cope with that period of not knowing if the Premier League was going to start up again, and how did you keep yourself focused?
It was definitely difficult Just the uncertainty. I think just in the world, like I don't think anyone deals with uncertainty well, but I think obviously our situation was a bit it was a bit different because of such a long wait and how clear things felt like they were going to be in terms of us winning the league and where things were left off just felt like why now and like we could have just sorted this out. And then when they was talking about null and void, it was like surely not. Like it would have just felt after the year before, like losing by such a fine margin, and then this year it would have just felt like just demoralising beyond belief. But aside from like the Liverpool component, I think for me I was like that's where the stages earlier in my career were beneficial in the sense that those periods whereby I didn't have that structure of training, it was more so me having to look after myself with my rehab. And aside from that, I'm left in the gym to look after myself. If I don't do my session, it's on me.
Yeah.
It was sort of like I sort of knew what it was like and what it took, and learning about my body earlier on, I knew what I needed to tick over and to what. And I sort of saw it as an opportunity. Like this is often you don't get a window when you're playing in season to sort of to develop and get stronger and work on areas that you don't get to in season because it will be too strenuous or too taxing. So like I just saw it as an opportunity. Like I was fortunate to have enough equipment in my garage to just attack it and just use the day. The one thing I found during lockdown was that I need to keep a contrast between being indoors and lounging around and having my exercise time.
Yeah.
As long as I have my session each day, I'll feel like I've done something. Now I can chill.
Yeah.
Because for this, in terms of the psychological aspect, that was the key thing for me that just kept me going and kept me in a good place. So even if it was like lighter days, just doing something to stay productive or stay like to keep that contrast, like I say, that was key. So yeah, it was tough in terms of Liverpool and like the league thing, but that I just saw that that's out of our control, like especially my control. Yeah. So all I can do is focus on my sessions each day. And aside from that, it's like there's things bigger in the world, and there's at the end of the day, it's a pandemic where people are losing their lives. So then like you have to revert back and just count the blessings in a way that me and my family were healthy, and it was just enjoyable to bond with my son and just enjoy time with the missus. So it was tough. I think everyone's gone through probably one of the toughest years of most of our lifetimes, but just trying to draw perspective and improve in other ways was the key, I think.
Yeah, man, thanks for that. So you have now won the Premier League. It did restart, everybody. If you wasn't aware, and Joe is a Premier League winner. Congratulations, by the way, man. That's an amazing achievement. Has achieving that status in the period that we're in now, has it taken the edge off it a little bit, or is it still as amazing as what you ever dreamed it would be? And I mean with no fans being there. Yeah, that's what I mean, actually.
Yeah, I think, like I said like earlier, explaining how I felt after the Champions League and experiencing that sort of high with the supporters and like really understanding how big the club was, I think everyone would have to admit that it's not quite the same. At the end of the day, like winning the Premier and being in the stadium, that football's about the supporters, and it's a big part of the game. So it did take an edge off it in a way, but I mean, there wasn't much that can be done again. So looking back, I think everyone wishes that it could have been in normal circumstances, because having a parade and being able to share the final game on a trophy lift with the supporters is what it's all about, especially at our club, considering the wait and how many years it's been. It's like it would have been the ideal scenario to have it like that, but it did take the edge off it. But I think still, like we're still appreciative of the accomplishment, and yeah, I'm personally just thankful to be a part of such a team.
Brilliant, man. We're not got long left. Are you still okay to continue? Do you
I'm good,
yeah?
Man.
Brilliant. How do you start your your typical day then, Joe? Because to me, from just speaking to you for however long we've been speaking, I can see that you're somebody that's very disciplined and understands the fact that, you know, he needs to put the work in to get to where he needs to get to. What does your typical day start and look like when you are normally training and stuff?
For us, like we're probably a bit different to a lot of other teams where the gaffer likes training to replicate the kickoff time. So in a
Wow.
lot of cases, we're training at like 5, 6 o'clock. If we've got an
Okay.
evening game, which is quite common. If not, then it'll probably be 3 o'clock. So my mornings are always pretty chilled. I mean, just enjoy time with the family. I think it is strange, but something you adapt to over time. Just most teams will train in the morning and have the day to sort of roam or do what they're doing. But for me, it's always like I don't like doing anything before training, feeling just as though I don't want to take away from my energy or fatigue in any way before training. So just chill before and then eat breakfast and then get in pretty early, just to eat. And then for me, like the work starts like pre-act. Just having been through the injuries that I've been through, it's just learning your body and knowing what you need to be ready physically to train. So for me, that's fundamental. Like I can't imagine now training without having that time beforehand. If you just chuck me on the pitch and said train, I'll be like, I need to do my pre-act. So yeah, I'll do my pre-activation and then we train. So then after that, it's just like doing all I can to recover. Depending on the week, some weeks are like relentless and it's like Tuesday, Saturday, Tuesday, and there's not much time in between. And you got to do what you can with just the physios and so on. But apart from that, I live a pretty boring life, man. I don't really go out to eat much. Like me and my missus try and get out once a week and have like time together and stuff.
Yeah.
But during the week, I'm just always at home and train home, spend time with my little man. And yeah, so it's long and monotonous in that sense over the season, but it's just like you just want to stay focused and when I'm not on the pitch, I'd rather give time to my family, and then it just helps me stay more. I just don't like being hectic and feeling like I'm just running around, and then before you know it, I need to train now. Like I haven't even had time to process it, and I'm someone that's big on like just visualization and having that time to visualize what I want to do in training today or the next game. So I feel like if you've got a lot going on around that and around your schedule, then it's difficult to balance your time and your mind, if anything.
Sounds to me that you take your training sessions seriously then. It's an important part of the week and in your development, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I feel as though there are times you could ask players and they say, yeah, I trained bad all week and I played well, but I just feel as though like a lot of football is form really, isn't it? And that everyone goes through difficult periods, but I just feel like to set yourself up to perform as best you can on a weekend, it's just applying yourself all week. And regardless, that doesn't mean I'm going to train well. It's often the case that you can prepare and then you still train badly, but just giving yourself every chance to be prepared, to be focused and mentally ready so that you can train well all week, and taking that confidence into the game that can just help set you up to be in a better place, really. So yeah, it's definitely big for me, and just not taking any sessions for granted. I think being injured, you realise, every session is important and every session plays its part, whether it's physically not as taxing, you still take a lot from it mentally. So yeah, it's definitely changed my outlook in that sense too.
Brilliant. Do you have any particular diet that you stick to?
For me, like I learned a lot about nutrition like when I was injured, just because you're physically not as active.
Yeah.
So like I get a lot of stick from my missus and from my boys. Like Kieran will tell you that like I'm a bit like, I'm all in or nothing. So it's
Okay.
like down to like, I just know all my calories and all my macros, like
Your
my
macros,
carbs.
yeah.
Yeah, like I'm very in tune with what I'm eating on a day-to-day basis. I might have a day a week where I'm sort of switch off a bit and have that balance, but through the week I'm very like in tune with just how much I'm consuming, and just make sure I'm fueling right. I've just learned that how important it is just for your recovery. And like I said, there was periods where when I got injured and I just wasted away. I feel like if I had that know-how then, you don't realize how much your nutrition can aid your growth and your muscle, like being able to just maintain muscle mass and so on. So just through the season, I try and just stay in tune with just how much I'm consuming or what I'm consuming at a particular time of the week, just to make sure, yeah, I'm fueled or I feel good. And over time, I've realized that what feels good for me. For me, for example, like I'm not big on, I won't eat till later in the day because I just don't feel the urge to fuel up or feel heavy
Yeah.
before training.
Yeah.
But it's just getting to know yourself and your body. But yeah, I'm definitely one that's in tune with nutrition. And the club are so good at that as well that has probably taken our hands quite a bit.
Wicked, wicked. How do you prepare for a big game? Say you're going to play at Old Trafford, for example. How are you
Yeah.
preparing for that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm still young. So like I've still like going through that phase of just learning about myself still. Like I'm far from feeling like I know it all. And there are other teammates that I look at and say like, I feel like just feeling his aura, like you can tell Virgil's for one, like Virgil's one that it's clear that I'm grateful to learn off him, but for many reasons, and one being his mentality, and that you can see that in a game, his approach is second to none.
Okay.
And he doesn't seem phased. But in my sense, like with time, I'm getting more comfortable and getting more experience and exposure to those big games. But to be specific, I'm pretty like keen, like I said, on visualization. So like from as early as possible in the week, if I know I'm going to start, I'll start just going through the game in my head, like just small scenarios. Obviously, you can't like see the future or know what you're going to face, but just the components of the game that I know I'm going to come across. I know I'm going to have to like go up for headers. I know I'm going to receive the ball from the keeper, and sort of just try and go through the game in that sense. And then I always try and meet analysts on the day before or 2 days before the game, depending if we're traveling. Just get familiar with their team or where they're at. It's hard to follow football all the time and who's in the team and who's not.
Yeah, of course.
So just get familiar with them. I'll probably like just make mental notes or notes physically and just try and interpret what I'm going to come up against. And then aside from that, it's just like I suppose just trying to stay calm, but still, I think it's important you keep that edge. I suppose like not getting too relaxed or too like you need to be a bit anxious, and I feel like that's important for me. And then I mean, with time, I suppose I'm going to adapt and learn different ways of approaching the game. But for now, I think those are the key components for me.
Brilliant. Because obviously you're playing at a high level now. So, and I'm guessing the demands at playing at that level, whether it be from the fans or the manager, is always high. You're always in the spotlight now. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, as well as that, your teammates as well. And I think with time, you go through that phase of finding yourself and finding like just mentally what your coping mechanism is, and not to say that you're you're coping with it, but just to say like you just know how to stay on in a level place mentally, so that the games are so thick and fast that you can't dwell or worry about the last one, or because it's so continuous that the next one's coming up. And like, especially for us last year, I think it was just, you know, how big it was to win a league, and having experienced the year before, and like seeing the fact that 97 points couldn't do it. It's just like every game, whether it's a big game or a bigger team, every game is an opportunity, and one where you don't want to make a mistake or caught like dwelling or so it's just continuously like reminding myself like each game's an opportunity, and often looking back to periods where I wasn't playing, I was injured, and just continuously like staying aware that like this every game's an opportunity and a chance to express myself, and I can't take that for granted. I'm not just playing for myself, I'm playing for my family, for the supporters, for the club, and that's a responsibility that I have to carry. And aside from that, it's just balancing it between taking that responsibility but not letting it like consume you
totally,
or eat you up.
and affect you. Yeah, of course.
Exactly.
And what do you find, or is there anything you find difficult then about being a professional footballer playing for this great club? You know, because I'm guessing playing for Charlton and playing for Liverpool is totally different now. So is there anything you find difficult about being a Liverpool footballer?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's obviously a lot of pressure and there's an expectation, but I think with time, having going through periods where I haven't played, I realise like there's nothing I'd rather be doing than being in the thick of it and playing week in, week out, and thriving off that pressure. Because like, even the start of the season, like, I had periods, like, a long period where I was just on the bench and not playing for a consistent period. And aside from my injuries, that was probably the hardest point in my career so far. And it just made me realise like I want to be involved every week. I want to play as many games as possible. That, and obviously at times where things aren't going as well, there is a big expectation from the supporters that we might have one bad game, but then after that it's like you got to switch on and be ready. But I suppose it's all part and parcel and part of the game. Aside from that, I think off the pitch, I probably just like learn to balance how much I consume. So,
That's right.
how much I consume in terms of like socials, and I think that's another aspect that you have to balance well and learn over time as you get older. But for me, it's just like just focusing on the job at work, and then coming home and having that balance and having family time and focusing on that. So like that comes back to the people I have around me, with my missus and my friends. But there is definitely difficult periods and bits and times where it's like, wow, this is a tough point, but it's part and parcel. And I think every footballer goes through that and deals with different pressures.
Do you think that helps then in just understanding that it's part and parcel of the job, really, that you're going to have ups and downs, and you sort of just got to weather the storm? And as you say, you've got good people around you that can help you as well.
Yeah, 100%. It's sometimes like you, as a footballer, you're bound to get criticised, and it's the position you're in to get judged, and like everyone's going to have an opinion on what you're doing because that's the platform you're given. But like it's just trying to take things on board and understanding where people are coming from, but just then also knowing when to say, okay, like I have to focus on myself, or I've just got to be better, without taking on board like the knocks that it's going to give you confidence. And that's something I've had to learn. And definitely at times where it's got the best of me, and just in my decision making and so on the pitch, or how I've gone into the game psychologically, just feeling like, but I did this and he said that about me, or it can come from anywhere. And that's what I was saying, just about the balance of knowing what to take in and what not to take in. And yeah, nowadays social media is a big part of the game. And I think that's one thing that you have to learn to balance as well. But yeah, that's definitely been times where I've had to just seek reassurance from the people around me, and that's where that support system's so big.
Brilliant, brilliant. I have a few more questions and then we're probably okay to wrap up for today.
Yeah.
One of my mates is a big Liverpool fan, and his son, also a big Liverpool fan, but is very, very hardworking. I'm always seeing him putting the work in. But anyway, I let him know that I was due to speak to you today, and he's got a couple of questions that he wants to ask you. His name's Mikey. So we've got a couple questions from Mikey. One is, who inspired you when you was younger to get to the highest level?
In terms of players, I said it like a couple of times. I feel as though, like for me, it wasn't more so. Like I said, I didn't see like Champions League football or anything like that. It was more so, I'd love to play in the Premier League, or.
Yeah.
And at the time, I think I was a fan of just watching football, but being a centre half, the likes of Rio Ferdinand and the ball playing centre halves was just, I just aspired to be the best I could be in that sense. And maybe it was that relatability because I knew was South East London, and I knew he was from South East London, and I think in that sense I really looked up to him, and like the career he had and the dominance that he had in the Premier League as well. Aside from that, I think obviously then going to Liverpool and seeing the legends and the players that have had such long careers, the amount of games that Jamie Carragher's played, and the consistency that he showed over so many seasons, to the likes of Sammy Hippier and so on. But then aside from that, I think it was closer to home, and just probably my dad and his efforts with me, and just desire to push me. And at times it was difficult, and I felt like, it's too much. But then, like in hindsight, it was everything I needed. And that desire started from home, really. And I think that was key for me, just having that support system, and that just didn't want to let my family down. Not in the sense that I felt like I carried that weight, but it was just like they've given me this platform and constantly taking me to football, and for so many years now came to all these games up and down the country. I just want to do them proud, and that was probably the main driving force and inspiration for me, really.
Well, I think you can give that box a tick. I'm sure you've made them very proud so far.
I hope so.
Have you ever managed to speak to Rio? Has he ever given you any advice on the position and how to deal with things? Because obviously he played for a massive club as well.
Yeah, no, not directly. Obviously, I suppose there's that
rivalry
that that's pretty big. So yeah, you have to bear that in mind. But for me, just as a footballer and not taking into account clubs or anything like that, putting that aside, like he was just a player that I looked up to, and like I say, Cara as well was one that at big time, and John Terry and that era, those were like defenders. But I also had a chance to play with Colo for a bit, Colo Torre.
Yeah, Colo.
Who, like, that Invincibles team was something I looked up to. And that was another surreal one. That was another person that when I joined Liverpool was like, whoa, Colo Torre. So
he always seems quite bubbly and smiley and everything.
Yeah, massive. He's everything you could imagine in that sense. And it was just nice to be around him, and he just showed me that desire to defend, and his attitude to work was just second to none. And those are opportunities that I'm grateful to have, and that's just another person that I was grateful to learn from.
Wicked, wicked. Mikey has one other question, which is, what should young players prepare for when they're in academies?
Um, I think just at times like potential rejection or going through periods where it's like I said, those stages where it's a bit daunting and you make a step up and it's like you feel like you're a bit like a fish out of water. And but I think just dealing with it, like I said, is just having that desire to learn. Like I'm like in my eyes, I'm still young. I suppose I'm getting to that point where I'm getting a bit older and can't be seen as a young player anymore. But I still see myself as that young player, like just wanting to learn and having that desire to learn. And I think that's just the key, really. Just for Mikey, just going into an environment and just showing that in his attitude that like, I want to learn. And it sounds like he's got a good work very clearly. So
Yeah.
I think that can take you way further than sometimes what ability can. Obviously, sometimes that's the foundation, but just having that desire and can take you way further than you can imagine. And yeah, I think the mentality, like I say, is key. And I think a lot of people pick up with that and pick up that from your aura, and not just in football, I suppose, in anything. So yeah, I'd probably say that's the key.
Brilliant. Mikey, when you watch this, there you have it. Some good advice there from Joe Gomez, man. So we're moving on to the final part of the show now, which is called Advice from a Pro. I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions. You've already given a lot of advice and inspirational messages in what we've been discussing. But, if there was somebody, or have you ever felt like quitting? And if so, how did you deal with that? What advice would you give to somebody that's in that position?
Um, I wouldn't say I felt like quitting, but it was just that feeling like, am I going to be able to do this anymore? Or like, am I going to make it back when I had that injury? And I think it's more so just trying to bring it back to the short term and the now and the moment, and just feeling like, rather than thinking a week down the line or 2 weeks down the line, I suppose all we have is right now, and like the past is gone and the present and the future isn't here yet. So it's just in the moment, constantly thinking, what can I do to improve the scenario or my situation? And I suppose that's a mentality that I've learned over time, but I think that's probably key. And I think it's often the case that you can build up scenarios in your head that aren't even going to happen or might not even happen,
Yep,
and let that be a worry. So just like, I suppose in football, just thinking about the now and thinking, or the next day, what can I train on? Like, what can I work on tomorrow? Or if I'm injured, what can I do to improve? Or how can I recover? Or just the little things day by day, and then the rest just will fall into place, I suppose.
Brilliant. What two sort of key ingredients do you believe that somebody needs to have in order for them to get to the highest level? Are there two specific things that you say, okay, yeah, that you need that if you want to get somewhere?
I think just having the right mentality, having a good balance of, and it's something I'm still learning myself, but because I'm far from the finished article, so it's hard for me sometimes to feel as though I can give advice on these things. But I think, yeah, having the blend.
Don't forget, you're 23 and you've achieved what you have. I think you can give a lot of advice, but I know what you're saying. He's so humble, ladies and gentlemen. He's so humble.
No. I think having the right balance between confidence and keeping that humility, whereby you're still eager to learn and have that desire to achieve, is key. So I definitely say just because confidence can make you do things that you wouldn't even imagine, especially in football. So I think staying confident and not letting things knock you is crucial, while balancing it with staying humble. And when you do have a good game, it's like, take what you want from it and what you can from it to carry over and perform well again. But don't feel then like you're the finished article or you made it sort of thing. So yeah, I think everything stems down to your mind and your mentality, and the physical aspects sometimes are only a small portion of things, I suppose.
Yeah, I do like that because you always hear that, your Roger Federers, your um, Tiger Woods, they all have trainers and
Mm.
you can always learn. Doesn't matter how high you've reached. So
Exactly.
I do like that. What advice would you give to yourself, Joe, being the same 19-year-old that went to Charlton? What advice would you give to yourself if you had you relived that moment?
I think just I think just don't let things consume you, or don't, like I say, look too far into the future and worry about like what am I gonna just focus on right now, and each day just take it as it comes, and enjoy the moment, enjoy the games, enjoy training, enjoy just being able to play football, because it's a blessing to play the game and to be healthy, fit, and enjoy playing the game with the facilities and everything around you. So yeah, I'll definitely just say enjoy the journey. There's going to be tough times, but take what you can from them to learn and come out better the other side. And yeah, the rest will be what it will be.
Wicked, wicked. Oh man, thank you. So we're gonna close now. What's been the hardest time or the lowest point that you've had in football to date?
Yeah, definitely just the period of injuries and 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 those tough periods where I couldn't be involved or participate. But like I say, I think it's hard to pinpoint an exact moment, but just a sustained periods. But
Yeah,
I wouldn't change them at this point, and I feel like
part of the
it's
journey.
all part of the journey, and everything happens for a reason.
Did you have to make any sacrifices to get to where you are at the moment?
I can't say like a specific big sacrifice, but I think it probably all adds up. Like every day, the small things that you need to do to be ready, and it accumulates, and those 1% add up. And whether it be you can't go out with your friends this night, or you shouldn't eat this, or like I personally don't drink and I never have, and I feel like little things through your life
Yeah,
just add up, and those sacrifices are things that, like I say, I can't pinpoint and say one big one, but I suppose it's just little things day by day that add up, and those are key to getting where you want to get to.
so they say when you add up all of those inches, man, it all counts. So
Exactly.
what's been the highlight so far of your career? Bearing in mind you've won Champions League, Premier League,
Yeah,
FIFA, all of this stuff. You played for England. What's been highlight? Only one. You can't say this, and
like
this.
playing. Okay. Um, I'll probably say like making my Prem debut for Liverpool.
Okay.
It's hard. Probably just my two debuts. The
Yeah.
Prem, sorry,
All right.
my two debuts. My Prem debut, and playing for England for the first time, because those were two that like were massive aspirations when I was younger, and to achieve them was like it was just surreal, and I didn't imagine myself being in that position. So yeah, I'd say those two.
Fantastic. That is the end of Views from Inside, people. As you know, if you're still with us and you've listened and watched throughout all of this, you will hear Joe drop a lot of important gems and advice and the way to deal with rejection or deal with a setback, as he's had many with injuries. And just also, I think one of the big things that I've taken from this, Joe, is how disciplined you are and how humble you are. And I think that goes a long way because, as you said, you can always learn. It doesn't matter what you've done. You haven't quite. You've got a long way to go into the game. What is the next step then for you? You know, what sort of goals have you given yourself? If you're allowed to share them, you don't have to.
No, I think just trying to to seek that consistency and just prove to myself that I'm capable of achieving and consistently being at that level week in, week out. I think, like I said before, I have such good examples around me, like being in the environment I'm in at Liverpool and people to learn from. So yeah, just seeing the standards that I set and just constantly challenging myself week in, week out to be at that level. And yeah, like I say, take it a game at a time and hopefully accomplish more trophies and win more things.
Brilliant, brilliant. Okay, I know you're on Instagram. Are you on Twitter or anything? Do you want to?
Yeah. I'm not as active on Twitter, but my Instagram's just my name and Joe Gomez 5, I think. Yeah, so
Joe Gomez
yeah.
5 on Instagram.
Yeah, and my
Yeah,
Twitter J Gomez J_Gomez 97.
J_Gomez 97. I'll put it on the screen anyway, people. That was Joe Gomez. Thank you very much. It's an honor and a pleasure to have you on. I appreciate your time. We've gone quite over the normal time that we was meant to, so I apologize for that.
No
But
worries, man.
thank you very much, man. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Joe Gomez. This is View from Inside. I'm Sem, signing out. Until the next time, thank you all for watching and listening. Peace out. Laters.